Maize growers in Australia have reason to feel confident about the future too. Some promising new trade opportunities and ongoing crop improvement are part of the reason, as Jane Drinkwater reports.
It mightn't be Australia's most prevalent summer crop, but according to plant breeders Solomon Fekibaloo, the advantages of growing maize are many. Highly productive in good seasons with flexible options for planting and harvest, maize remains relatively unscathed by pre-harvest rainfall and has numerous varieties for a diverse range of uses. With a deep taproot and low moisture use near harvest, maize is an ideal rotation crop.
Once it attains physiological maturity, it doesn't extract too much moisture from the soil. That means it doesn't deplete the soil moisture. So they will have a better chance for next crops, or it gives a much better opportunity for double cropping.
With demand in East and Southeast Asia expected to rise by 50% in the next 8 years, major maize-producing countries like China and India becoming net importers, and the US increasingly using maize for ethanol production, opportunities for Australian maize exports into Asia should increase significantly. And thanks to our non-genetically modified varieties, the local maize industry is well placed to benefit, particularly through exports to Japan and South Korea's high-value food use sectors.
So most of the world has turned to using GM maize, and some 90%, I believe, is now GM maize. That's left countries like Japan and South Korea worried about where they're going to get the GM-free product from. Their consumers are insisting that they have GMO-free maize in their products.
Southeast Queensland grower Harley Bly agrees Australia's genetically modified organism, or GMO-free maize status, presents a marketing advantage.
And we in Australia have a situation where we don't have any GMO corns, not registered to grow here, and so we can guarantee GMO-free status of our corn into their markets.
Oh, okay, we'll have a look at one of these cobs here. One here. This is a grit corn. This corn's probably about 4 or 5 weeks away from harvest. Break him open there. Then they take the germ out of the middle, and what's left is the grit, from which is all the snack foods are made, like Doritos, corn chips, twisties, corn flour, and obviously corn flakes as well.
Of the 400,000 tonnes Australia produces annually, only 30,000 tonnes is exported. It's hoped that export figure can rise to 100,000 tonnes within the next 2 to 3 years.
The industry believes it can produce that amount now that the water storage in Eastern Australia are nearly all full, and that dryland maize is also expanding.
But in order to satisfy this demand, Australia needs to produce a larger, more reliable supply of quality maize, which is why maize research at the Hermitage in Warwick is a high priority.
First, we need to get the right varieties, the right germplasms that are suitable for Australia growing condition. And secondly, we need to identify the market needs, and we should be able to produce the type of corn or maize required by this market, and we should be able to provide consistent, adequate, reliable supply to these markets.
The grain programs, the breeding programs that are being conducted now are certainly working towards increased productivity across a number of environments, whether it be dryland maize or irrigated maize.
The pre-breeding team based at Warwick is releasing to seed companies 12 lines of elite material for crossbreeding into new varieties. These lines, showing up to 20% yield advantage over current varieties, incorporate germplasm from South America, the USA and Africa, tailored for tropical, subtropical and lowland production.
Capitalising on the overseas demand for GM-free maize will require improved crop reliability, but also strategic development along the entire supply chain. That's why GRDC recently assisted representatives from the Maize Association of Australia DD Queensland and a small group of growers to visit key Asian markets to build relationships and gain a greater understanding of this emerging opportunity. Grain grower Harley Bly was a member of the study tour group.
We wanted to see the different processes that the corn goes through in Asia, which was most interesting, plus develop customer relations there with the end users of the corn in Asia. And they wanted to meet growers.
And the findings were that in Japan, the market for GMO-free food-use maize is about 2 million tonnes. It is hoped by our industry that we can capture some 25% of that market sometime over the next 7 to 10 years. That would be 500,000 tonnes.
With so much potential for future export, GRDC's support of the maize research is a strategic investment.
I think there will be a very bright future for maize growers in Australia, and definitely there will be expansion of maize production here in Australia.
Yeah, I see huge potential for maize production if we can get a good, reliable supply and get our logistics through export of bulk up and running. We'll be able to capitalise on these markets.